Okay, so do you know about databases?
No, sir, not. I don't have such a great idea about it.
Okay, okay, fine. So, right. Yes, so databases, the simplest example to understand is an Excel is a kind of database. It's not exactly a database software, but it is a kind of database. So,
Okay.
in simple terms, what we can say, a database could be in terms of softwares, if we say. So, software to store data in an organized manner. So, yes, a software to store data, and more important is that the data should be organized. Most of the times, if we say databases, it actually tells us about RDBMS, which is called as Relational Database Management System. So most of the times, this is database term is used for RDBMS, which is Relational Database Management System. Relational here means, or relation here means a table, which is a collection of rows and columns. The table is a collection of rows and columns. So that is RDBMS. So database is a software where we store data. Now R stands for a table. That means we are storing data in the form of rows and columns. System is nothing but a software, a tool. And
Okay, sir.
apart from RDBMS, you can have many databases. I'll just introduce you. Like these days, very popular databases are NoSQL. So NoSQL databases are very popular. And now why they are called as NoSQL? Because if you see RDBMS, then the language used in RDBMS is called as SQL, which is sorry, yeah. So which is called as structured query language. So that is
Okay,
the yeah,
sir.
language which is used in RDBMS. And if I take examples, then we have a software called as MySQL. It is a free open source software. Another example is Oracle database, and we have many like IBM also has got IBM DB2 is the database name. Then we have Postgres SQL. So many softwares are there which actually come under RDBMS. They are similar and they use structured query language. And because they have been designed by different communities, different companies, so there you will find a bit difference in the SQL. Like 80% of the things you will find they are similar, but 20% of the syntax you will find differs.
Okay,
Now,
sir.
yes. Now coming to the NoSQL part. So in NoSQL, basically, what happened, especially during the year 1990s to 2000 or 2003. So during these years, there was a huge, or rather, I should say, exponential growth. So there was a huge growth in data, and the challenge was this data was not structured; it was mostly unstructured. So this whole data was unstructured. So now, if the data is structured, we can fit that particular data into RDBMS because it is rows and columns. But if the data is unstructured, so so if the data is unstructured, it is difficult to put them into a tabular kind of software. So it was very difficult at that time. So therefore, what basically different communities planned that this data which is being produced and it is exponential, we should have some mechanism of storing, capturing, and managing this data. Therefore, they thought of having some databases which can allow data which is not very much structured also to be captured and stored and managed. So that time, these NoSQL databases actually got evolved, which is basically which means not only SQL. So which means that SQL is very rigid. Rigid means it says that each and every a single cell, that is a row and a column, each and every single cell should have some value. If you are making some column as integer, so all the values in that particular column should be integer itself. You cannot have a mix of integer and string in that. So SQL is very rigid, or RDBMS is very rigid. It has got a lot of constraints. So this NoSQL was designed with a thought that we will have very less constraints. So NoSQL databases got evolved this way.
Okay, sir.
Now we have databases which are called as spatial databases. So now spatial databases, example is maps. So where we can basically put geolocations, or we can show the altitude, heights of mountains, or depth of valleys. So all these things can be represented. So those kind of databases are known as spatial databases. If you see, all these are just mechanism of storing and organizing the data. We have graph databases as well. So if you see uh, a graph has got edges and nodes. So these graph databases are also basically organized in the form of edges and nodes. Example, let's say city is there, Pune is city, and then let's say now I am in Kanpur, so Kanpur is another city. So Pune will be one node, Kanpur will be another node, and there will be an edge which will connect, which will show some kind of relation or connectivity between Pune and Kanpur. So this connectivity could be like distance. The distance from Pune to Kanpur can be the edge. So this is how also the data is being organized. So yes, I think these are enough. Okay, so there are different types of databases, and data is organized accordingly. So now what we are basically talking about is RDBMS, Relational Database Management System, and there also especially we are talking about MySQL, which is an open source database. So MySQL, it is we can call it as MySQL or MySQL. That's the same thing. I have installed in my machine MySQL. I'll share you the document how to install it.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So this is the MySQL command line. Basically, I'll have to write certain commands. It is asking for password, so password is root in my case. Yes. So I am into the shell of MySQL. Now I'll tell you few commands so that you get familiar with the MySQL database. So here you can see MySQL. So this is the shell of MySQL, and here you can write the commands in order to uh, create some tables, in order to put some data into the table, or do anything, any manipulation with the table. So this inside MySQL, we have a provision of creating a database. So let us first check how many databases are already present inside this MySQL software. In order to do that, I need to type show databases. So as soon as I type show databases, it tells me that we have database information schema is one database, MySQL is another, performance schema is another, Shakila is another, test is another, world is another. So these many databases are already present inside this software. And these databases are like containers. So for example, this is one database, and this database will have zero or many tables into it. So yes, so this database can have a lot of tables. So let's say these small red shape represent tables. So it can have multiple tables into it. It is like this. So let us create one database. Let me create. So the command is create database, and I need to give a name. So let's say let us give Python. So create database Python. So this is a simple command, and it says query okay, one row affected. That means the database has been created. So I will again write show databases and some spelling mistake I've done. Yes, show databases.
So when it says one row affected means, yeah, it means another database will be created means. So why does it say one row affected?
Yes. Okay. Yes. So it says one row affected because as soon as we create a database, so internally there's a table where there will be an entry of Python database entered into it. And therefore, because there is only one entry for a new database created, so it says one row affected. So for example, internally there will be a table, and inside that table, there is already certain entries of certain rows are present for different databases, which are already present. And now for Python also, one row has been added. That's why it says
Okay.
one row affected. So I'll give you another example which will make it more clear that like uh, uh, like this is one, so you'll get to know that when it is more than one, right? So here this Python has been added, the database has been added. Now what I'll do is I'll type use Python. So use Python. So this basically helps me to get into the Python database, and now I can create certain tables inside Python database. So I can create, so now if I type show tables, so it says empty set. So there is no table inside it. So I can have create table, and let's say the table name I'll keep it as students, and then I can have student ID as integer. I can have name as varchar, and that's it. Only these things I have. So now it has created a table.
So what does it mean when you specify int in brackets 10 and variable characters bracket 30?
Yeah. So 10 means that it can go up to 10 digits, 10 digit.
Okay.
Yeah, so varchar 30 letters. That's how. So one table is created. Again, I type show tables, so it will show me students. So one table is created. Now I can insert rows into this table. So for inserting, we have a command insert into table students, and we'll have type values, and now I can write values inside bracket. ID is integer, so I can write 1 comma name is varchar, so I can put it into a single quote. So let's say I write my name. Insert into table students. Okay, I need not to write table. Okay, yeah, the table name directly should be there. So insert into students values 1 and the name. Similar way, I can write multiple entries I can have here. And now basically I have entered two values. Let me just put one more value, 3, and I can have one more name here. Yes. So now if I type select star from students, this means I need to fetch all the rows from this table. So select means fetching the rows, star means all the rows, from means from where we need to fetch, students in the table name. So from student table we have fetched all the rows and it is showing all the rows. So this is very simple example of basically creating a database, creating a table and inserting the rows into it.
Okay, sir.
Now this all I'm doing with the help of this command line software of MySQL, command line screen. And this database, like, is the backend part of all the applications. Like whatever applications we make use of, they are connected to some database at the backend. And most of the times that is MySQL because it is open source. So it is easily like without having any kind of concern of licenses, it can be used. Now let us come to the Python part. So here in Python, I'll just demonstrate first and then we'll discuss on it. So yes, here in Python, what I have done is I want to basically make connection to this database. That is my objective. And after making connection to this database, I would like to get some details out of it. So for example, now we are into a database which is named as Python, which we have created, and we have other databases as well. So here in this example, uh, I have connected this Python program with the database which is called as world. So if I type here use world, so now the database has been changed. And if I type show tables, so it has got three tables: city, country, and country language. These three tables are there. And let me just do select star from city. So you can see that like all cities of the world are being displayed. So this is what I would like to do with the help of Python program now. Okay, so here in this MySQL command line, I did it with the help of MySQL commands, and the same thing I would now do with Python program. I required certain packages to be imported because that I'm going to use in the program. One is OS, another is PyMySQL, another is Pandas. And then what I did is I basically require to tell Python where the MySQL is installed. So this MySQL is installed in the same machine, in this machine itself. So the machine name I need to give here. So OS has got a method os.getEnvironment, get env, and host, what we are basically what we are trying to put into this variable is localhost. So localhost is a string, and all the machines by default are having name as localhost. So for example, if I open a command prompt here, so it doesn't work here. Okay, it doesn't work here. Fine. So in Linux, basically, if you type host name, so it gives the name of the host. So by default, the host name is localhost. That we can see in Windows drivers. PC host as file and head it with Notepad++. So here, if you see, so this localhost is the default name of a system. Any system, like not only mine, even yours would be localhost only. So fine, that is just for information. So this first variable, that is host, I have given it name as localhost. Then second we have port. Port is basically uh, now you can understand it by like this. Let me clear this all. So let's say this is the CPU and it has got, let's assume that these are the certain ports. Let's say the port for pen drive itself. Let's call them as a port of pen drive. So if you want to connect a pen drive, what you will do is you will make use of these ports, and using these ports you will try to connect your pen drive. So let's say this is the pen drive. So with the help of these ports you will try to connect your pen drive. So what is a port? Port is basically uh, that you can say a connector or interface which will help you to connect one element to the other. That is the port basically. And this is a physical port, so it is easy to understand. But the whole of your computer is having lot of port numbers, because this is a physical port and this is connected to a particular uh, chip, like that is ultimately getting connected to, this port is getting connected to somewhere in the CPU motherboard, somewhere it is getting connected, okay, in the motherboard. And that motherboard has got so many such ports, and out of which few have been given as external ports where we can connect the external devices. So similar way, there are a lot of ports, and on one port MySQL runs. So you should understand now that each and every process runs on some port number, and these port numbers are interfaces which help one entity to connect with another entity. So this second thing which is specified here in the program as port, so by default the MySQL is always having 3306 as the port number. So it is always having 3306 as the port number. That's the default one. you can change it. If you want, you can change it, but this is the default all across the world. So by default, like if you'll ask anybody, so they'll immediately tell you MySQL port, it's 3306. Okay. So if I want to make connection to the MySQL, I need to tell that which machine is it. So machine means host name, so that is localhost, and in that particular machine, where should I go? So I should go to the port, and the port number is 3306. This is how it happens. Next part is about the authentication. Authentication means now you have come to the CPU, which is called as localhost, and you have come to the port number 3306, which is a port number of MySQL. Now, as soon as you will start interacting with MySQL, MySQL will ask you, who are you? Like MySQL will ask you, tell the username and tell the password. So MySQL itself is having, like as soon as I opened up this command line, you had seen that it was asking for the password. It opened up,
Yes, sir.
yeah, it opened up with a default user. The default user was root, and it asked for the password. So password I have set as root only. A very similar way, it will ask for the user. So I have created one user which is called as Python user, and I have given the name as Python itself for that particular user. So next two things are user and password. These are the next two things. And the last thing is about database. So as I told that here, I am making use of the database Vault, and inside that I have three tables, and out of which I have a table called as city. So I will be fetching data of the table city from Python code. That is what my objective is.
Okay, sir.
Right. So now all these things I will take into a single entity, and that entity is con. Basically, an object or a variable. I have named it as con because it will establish the connection. And this PyMySQL will give me this facility. So PyMySQL has got a method. So the method is called as connect. So PyMySQL dot connect, and it connects me by with the help of these parameters to the database which is installed. So this is the database you have already seen. So it will help me to connect with this. So host, port number, user, password, database, and char sets. Yeah, so this is something new. So char set is basically like we have Python syntax, we have SQL syntax. So these syntax have got some name. So sorry. So just a second. Yes. So these SQL syntax have got some name, and that is the one of them is called as UTF-8 MB4. So this is basically the way we write SQL. So it is that char set. So I don't know whether you know about, like we have for example, we have binary, then we have hexadecimal numbers, we have ASCII
Yes, sir.
numbers. So these are different types of representation of data. So similar way, this char set is the way SQL is being written, that is called as UTF-8 MB4. So this is a standard format, the way this language is written. So that because we are writing in Python, so as soon as it will connect with the SQL or this database, so this database should be able to understand whatever we are command we are passing from the Python. So therefore, it has been mentioned here. Now, step number one was importing certain libraries or packages. Step number two was initializing all the parameters, uh, which is host, port, user, password, database. Step number three, creating a connection object and passing all those parameters into that connection object. And then after that, now basically we can have the query. So now we have created a variable df is equal to pd dot read SQL query. So PD comes from pandas. So import pandas as PD. So why do we write this as PD? Because pandas, whatever is lengthy, if you want to shorten it up, so you can just write as PD. So you need not to write pandas. Like for example, you see here, I have written PyMySQL. But if you want to make it shorter, you can just write here like as, let's say, uh, PM. So you can just write PM, and I can just write here PM.connect. So if you want to make a name shorter, so you can do this way, as, and make the name shorter. So these are called as aliases. So this is the alias name for pandas. Fine. So PD dot, now pandas has got a function which is called as read SQL query, and inside I have passed an SQL query, select star from world.city. Now why world.city? You can make an analogy between Python and SQL now. So this is SQL line, this is SQL line. So world.city, world is a database, city is a table. So city table is inside world. So this is what we have seen here. Currently we are inside a database called as world, and if I do show tables, so this world database is having a table called as city, right? So therefore I want to display, select means fetch, star means all. So I want to fetch all the records from table city which is present inside the database world. And I'm
So what
also,
was DF again?
yes, I didn't get, can you come again?
So DF before when you started the new line, DF is equal to PD dot read SQL
Yes, yes.
query. What is DF?
DF is any variable name, you can write it anything.
Okay.
Yeah, it's user defined. It has no as such predefined meaning. Like
Okay.
this con has got no predefined meaning. You can make it anything. DF also has got no predefined meaning. So that is user defined. You can name it anything. So this df will store this whole thing. Okay, and what is this thing? PD is pandas, and pandas has got a function which is called as read SQL query, and this is the SQL query we have passed, and we have also passed con, because where to execute this query? The query will be executed here. Here means
Okay.
localhost. Basically here it will be executed. So now DF will get the result, the whole result. The result is this thing. This is the whole result. So that is what DF will get. And then next is df dot tail 20. So tail is a function to display the last record. And how many last record? 20 last record. So tail is a function to display last records and 20 last records. So I'll just make it restart and clear output, and then let's just change it to 5. Only 5 records we want to fetch, and let's execute it. So I've done control enter. It may take some time because it was having 4079 records altogether. I should do restart and run out. Okay, yeah. So it has given the output. Only 5 records. So this, you have a choice. You can just increase it whatever number you want, and we can run it again. So it has shown us now 15. So 15 records it has shown us this way. So the important thing here is this configuration. This configuration should be correct. If there is some mistake here, it will not be able to uh, connect basically. And secondly, this package PyMySQL, this needs to be installed. If it is not installed, then on the command prompt we need to write python-m pip install PyMySQL. So on the cmd, the command prompt, so here cmd, so here we'll have to write Yes, here Python hyphen m, this line, install PyMySQL. So then it will install PyMySQL. Then you can make use of PyMySQL. By default, that PyMySQL is not configured. So what is PyMySQL? It is basically connector. So that connector connects the Python to the MySQL. So that is important. And PyMySQL is not only the connector. There are many connectors. Okay, so it's something like you need to check. You need to check with the Python version. For example, nowadays Python 3, PyMySQL is a good choice. Like you can use PyMySQL. If you are using some older version, you may get some other type of connector. Okay, so here PyMySQL is the option which we have, and it is called as Python DB API. PyMySQL, DB means database, API means application programming interface. So interfaces which helps to connect the Python to the MySQL. Therefore it is called as API, application programming interface. Now whatever database you are using, I have listed down the database here: Gladfly, MySQL, MSQL, MySQL, PostgreSQL. So if you're connecting to PostgreSQL, you will need a different connector, the connector of PostgreSQL. If you are using Informix, you will need a different connector. Okay, so the connector here, PyMySQL, that is primarily for that is primarily for Python connecting to MySQL. So this is the primary reason of PyMySQL. Yes. Now the flow is importing the API module. This is what we did. Import, then acquiring connection. Yes, con acquiring connection. Then issuing SQL statements. So that is what we did. We issued SQL statement select star from world.city, and then closing the connection. So here I did not do close connection. So that is very much important. We should always basically close the connection whenever we are basically uh, like opening. So we should always close the connection. Okay, so I think we can do it with so on dot close. Right. So with con we can close. Right. So it will give output in some time. So always we should close the connection, because if we don't close the connection, so that is not right practice, and that is not secure also if the connection is open. Okay, so now in this presentation, what I have given is PyMySQL. I have told you, so that is an API, application programming interface, or in simple terms, it is called as an a connector. So it connects the Python to the database. That is the work of the PyMySQL package. And if you want to install it, so you need to type pip install PyMySQL, or rather you should type, I have mentioned here, Python space hyphen m pip install MySQL on the command prompt. That is how you can install it. If it is already installed, you can simply get it by import PyMySQL. This way you can get it directly And after you have installed it, then basically what you can do is you can create a database, you can create a table, put some columns, put some rows into it, and then try to basically fetch that particular data. So this is what we did in this program. So we already we created a database called as Python, and we created a table into it, and uh, yeah, but already a table was created called as world, so we fetched from there. But if you want, you can basically change this db, so we can have this as uh, python python, and here we can have python python dot, we can have um, we have only one table, students, students. Okay, so let me just make it this way, kernel running, run run all cells. Okay, so let's see now. So it should basically get the details from a students table. Yes, so if you see, it has brought the table data.
So if what happens if we don't close the connection? Major problems.
Yes, I'll tell. Right. So if you don't close the connection, so what is connection? It is basically a process. So establishing a connection means there is a process which is, you can say, there is a process which is running, and that process has already authenticated the connection or entry to the MySQL software into a database. And now there could be a case, if you don't close it from here, that process will still continue to run. And let's say if somebody who is good with networking can basically fetch the information with the help of that process, so that is something insecure, that there is something insecure. Another thing that, like, security wise, if you see, that is insecure, that your data can be fetched, and data needs to be very, like, the privacy has to be maintained. So that is the ethical part of it. The second part is, if you don't close the connection, then there is a limit. Limit means, like MySQL, if you see, by default, the limit is in few hundreds. So only few hundreds of user. Let's say we log in into Gmail. Similar way, we log in into, let's say, a railway reservation site, and we many a time found that the server does not respond. Why? Because there is a limit in the connection. So if that limit is crossed, then more number of users will not be able to make connection. So therefore, if the connection is not closed, that means, let's say if some user wants to connect, and because we did not close the connection, they will also not be able to connect until and unless our connection is basically being closed. So that is another challenge, that unnecessarily the resources are being occupied, and none of us is actually making use of those resources. That is another part which is related to resource consumption, and the first part was related to security. Right? Clear? Is it clear? Yeah. Is the explanation clear? You got it?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, fine. Right. So yeah, so this is what I had done and shown you. Now in the presentation, I have added certain programs. So the program is basically related to creating a database. So I created a database here with the help of a create database command initially, like this create database Python. So I did this way. So the same command can be passed here. So here if you see, this is creating database table. So this is for creating a database table. Okay, so database is already created. Now here drop table if already exists, then create table employee. So the same commands which I did here for creating database and then for creating table like create table student, same commands can be passed into the program, and then like with the help of Python itself, we can create table, we can insert rows, we can fetch the data, we can delete the rows. All that is possible with the help of Python itself. So here, this is for creating, this is for inserting a row, and create SQL queries dynamically. Okay, fine. Yes, I should just put a heading here. That is also insert operation. Yes. So these programs, I'll share this presentation. You can try on first. You can try this one, this Jupyter notebook, and after that, referring to this Jupyter notebook, you can try one by one the creating table, inserting data, or deleting the row, looking at the presentation. Yes, and we have different functions. Like here, if you see, we have fetch one, fetch all, row count. So different functions we have, which will like this. It fetches the next row of a query result set. So whatever, if you see here in the Python notebook, so what is happening? The result of this query is getting stored in DF. So once we are fetching the data from database, we are storing it somewhere. So we are storing it into the DF. So now from DF we are getting these details. From DF we are getting these details. Now if I basically try to check, type type DF. Okay. So it tells me pandas.core.frame data frame. Okay, we have studied about data frame. It is a tabular structure. So DF is a data frame. Okay, so how we are getting the results from the table, from the database? From there we are getting the rows and columns, but that is being stored into a data frame in Python. Okay, so we have functions, these functions which apply to this DF data frame. Okay, and fetch one, it will fetch the next row of a query result set. Fetch all, it fetch all the rows in the query result set. So these functions can be used with DF. So DF dot fetch. So this is DB. SQL inserted to fine, and cursor has been used. DB dot cursor. Okay. Okay, so I'll have to make use of cursor here. So let us do it here. So let's just try this example. Okay, so we have done import PyMySQL. This is fine. Localhost is fine. Then after that we have python python underscore user. This is the username we have, python underscore user. Password is Python. So Python and databases again Python. So this is the database. Okay. Then a cursor has been created. Then in a variable, the query has been stored. Fine. Now try. Okay. So this for loop needs to be, the for loop is okay. For is inside R. Try. So try cursor dot execute. Fine. Fetch all the rows. Fine. Fetch all. And then okay. So let me just make the indentation proper. And enter. Has it come out of try? It shouldn't. It should not come out here. Yes. And yes, correct. So results and and for, and after that tab should come to this place. This all should go. Should actually go here. My table is not having so many things, so we can create either, or we can have only the things which are there in our own table. This is mm, for loop. Okay, after for loop, what we have if name and print statement is also there inside for loop. So print statement is also there inside for loop. Okay, fine. Then accept. Okay, db.close. Okay, fine. So we have we have Python select star from employee. So select star from Python has got as students. Select star from students where um, where ID is, so we don't need all this. Let's just remove this. We don't need this. Yes, and this is also not required. Okay, so from students, so all the records from students, and we just have ID and we have name. Only these two things are there, and nothing is there. Okay, nothing is there. Okay, so let me just try running this example. Let's see what happens. It says unable to fetch data. Here I should have um, f name, l name. So only name should be there, and nothing should be there. only id should be there. So id equal to percent d. So let's try now. And here also it should be only id, and it should be only name, nothing else should be there. So you'll have to try all these things. Okay, now let me check. Unable to fetch data. Okay, right. So still it is not able to fetch the data. Let's again check where could be the problem. Let us replace this part by the part which we have created here. Let's just put this part there. Control C, and let me just put it here. Give me a second. Okay, so I have just put the connection similar way where we have put in the above program. Now let us just try executing it, and it gives some error. It says already closed. Already closed. So what already closed? Okay, so here I should basically name it as uh, db, not con, right? I should name it as db. So control enter, and again unable to fetch data. So it is getting into try, and it is getting some error, and it's coming to accept part, unable to fetch data. So here let me write python.students, again unable to fetch data. Okay, all right. Let's do one more thing. uh, okay, so here database is world. So let's do world world dot city. So let's get the data from city. And here uh, let's go to the, yes, so into city. Let's do select start from city, limit 10, only 10 records field. So it has got id and it has got name. So let's get only those two things. Okay, yes. So we will have id, which is in caps id, and second is name. And so name, these two things we'll get here also, id and name. So let's check if it's functional. Anything else required? No, I think. Oh, again error. Okay, so let me just put this there. Unable to fetch data. Still it's not able to fetch data for row in results. Okay. uh, it should be name, it should be id. Great. Yeah. So what mistake I was doing is inside I have written name first and ID second. So that was a mistake I was doing. So you can see that this is another way we can get the details. Okay. So we are getting name and we are getting the ID. Okay. So just now I did something in front of you, something in the sense I did make some changes and then it worked out. So similar way, what you need to do is you need to take the examples from the presentation, and I'll share this updated uh, uh, Jupyter notebook with you. You can take a reference of it and okay, right. So, so you can basically, by taking the reference, you can implement the rest of the programs. And if there is any problem, like we'll connect and I'll resolve that. Okay. Did you understand like how the connection is being made?
Yes, in the first program I understood it quite well, but in the second program there was some error, so I didn't get it that much. But I fully understood the first program.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Like here, if you see, I'll just quickly go through. We have import by MySQL. This is understood. This is again from the first program.
Yes, sir.
This is making the connection from the first program. Now, next, what we are doing, like here in the first program, we had made use of a function read SQL query in the first program. And in the second program, we are making use of a function which is called as cursor. So we are this cursor basically helps us to read queries at runtime. Like here we in the first program we have passed the query here. Select star from Python students. So here we have passed the query. Okay, but what we are doing here is we have just created a function cursor and we have initialized it to this cursor. And now what will happen, you can make any kind of variable and pass a query to it, and whenever you want to execute this query you can do this way, cursor dot execute and pass this query here. You got it right? What we did, we created a cursor is equal to db dot cursor, and what does this, you can name it anything, this can be abcd, but the function name is cursor. So the cursor can accept any query, and how you are passing the query to the cursor, by like this, select start from, you have written a query and that query is stored into a variable and you have passed that variable into the cursor. So cursor has got method called as execute, so it will execute that query. Another thing, we have put it into a try and accept block. Why we have done this? We discussed about exception handling, right? So
Yes, sir.
whenever we know that there is a chance of error, so we put that code into try. So in the first example I did not put anything into the try. Here also there are chances of errors, okay, but I did not put it because I just wanted to demonstrate the database connectivity. But this query should be inside a try block, this query, because it actually can can cause some error. It can cause some error. Okay, there is a probability. If the table is, if the database is not having a table called as students, there will be an error. So that error should be handled. Therefore, we have used try block here. So if there will be any kind of error here, this code will not get executed. It will come here in the except and it will print error unable to fetch data. Multiple times this happened. For example, I'll just change it to name queue. Okay, I have given a parameter with the wrong name. Now it will not execute anything of this. It will just come to here and it will print error unable to fetch data. Just see here. So error unable to fetch data. Okay, so therefore we have made use of try and except to handle the errors. It's not giving any long big error, which is probably possible here. If you see here in the first program, if I write here students one, it will give us a long error. Yes, so a program error they have given. So I don't want to get this kind of error. I just want it to be gracefully handled. Therefore, we use try and catch, and that happened here. You got it right. The purpose of try and except.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So therefore, we have put the code, and this for loop is used to basically get one record at a time. So this results cursor dot fetch all. So cursor dot fetch all will fetch all the records and put it into results. And now result is a collection type. So we have put here for row in results. So this means for the first row in result, second row in result, third row in result. So it will you can understand like how for loop works. So for one row at a time, this row will fetch that row or record from results and will come inside. And because it is a collection, so row of 0 will be having id, row of 1 will be having name, right? Row of 0 will be having we have it here in the table. If you see, where's that? So row of 0 is id and row of 1 is name. If you want certain more things, country code, you can have it here. Like you can have it country code. Country code would be row of 2. This is 0, 1 and 2 indexing part, row of 2. And here we can display comma, we can have country code is equal to percent %s. Now if it is a number, we write percent %d. If it is a string, we write percent %s. So here I will mention country code. So country code is a string, therefore I have written percent %s. ID is a integer, so this is percent %d. Name is a string, if therefore it is string. Now let us just execute and check. So you can see country code is also fetched. Are you able to get like how we are getting the data?
Yes, sir.
So like row of 0, row of 1, row of 2. This is how you can get different columns, different
So
columns.
why do so one doubt, sir, in the code in the syntax, why do after do we write country code is equal to percentage yes? Then again, why do we write again percentage in brackets name ID country code?
Okay. So this name is basically because I wanted to display name here. Okay. Percent %s is basically a special character. Special character.
No, sir, I read that, but in the same line, in the last part, we write percentage in
Here.
brackets.
This
Yes,
one. This one.
sir.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm telling. So this name is a string. It has nothing to do with the database. This percent %s is a special character. It is looking for its counterpart here. So this percent %s comes from because percent %s like the first special character here is percent %s, second special character is percent %d, third special character is percent %s. So the first character will get the value from first element we have written here, second will get from the second one, and third will get from the third one. Do you get it? So if I don't write it here, it will be an error. So country code is at number 3. So we have 3 special characters here, 1, 2 and 3. Respectively, they have their counterparts. So percent %s has got name, percent %d has got ID, percent %s has got country code. This is how it works. Not clear?
Yes, sir.
No, is it clear or not?
Sir, after the I get that this is special character, and ID is also a number we write percentage D. Sir, I was not clear, sir. So could you explain it again?
Like your question is like uh, why we have written these things here, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, because let's say we don't write these here, and then what happens? Unable to fetch data. We don't write this also. Now you see what happens. Okay, the output comes as this percent s, percent d, percent s. So we need to give them value. Now they are confused, like from where to get the value.
Okay,
Okay,
sir.
now,
I got it, sir.
yes. So now let's just write. Yes. So now they will get the value. Let's say we have only this much. Again, unable to fetch data. So we need to put all. So they are getting the value from here, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So similar way, just try the other examples given in the presentation. Okay. And furthermore, I'll share. Uh, I think I have a document for installing MySQL as well. So I'll share that as well. So try installing MySQL, and along with that, try these examples. Okay. So uh, tomorrow I'll update. Same time we'll meet tomorrow again.
Okay, sir.